Hello, welcome to the online course What is Open Data Journalism and Why We Need Skills to Search for Data. Since one of the first things data journalists have to do is to gather data that is necessary to the story, this topic is about data gathering. We will first define what data is, then we will learn how to find and evaluate reliable sources of information, how to extract data, and then we will have a look at the challenges of data gathering. So, what is data? Generally, in philosophy, it is defined as things that are known or assumed as facts, making the basis of reasoning or calculation. A common definition of data is that it is the quantities, characters, or symbols on which operations are defined by a computer, which may be stored and transmitted in the form of electrical signals and recorded on magnetic, optical, or mechanical recording media. This is a very complicated definition for data. In essence, basically, all information is data. Data is the name given to the basic facts and entities such as names and numbers. Yet, while talking about open data journalism, we talk more about numbers than any other kind of data. Using numbers and statistics is the key for data journalism. It is the core and the main source of all the stories that data journalists make. The examples of data include demographic information, someone's age, race, ethnicity, gender, marital status, income, education, and employment, social information, attainment to education in different countries, health status in different age groups, someone's occupation, and so on. Social data is also considered social media users' location, spoken language, biographical data, and even the links people share. Social data is valuable to marketers looking for customer insights that may increase sales, or in the case of a political campaign, even win votes. Economic information. That is data describing an actual economic situation in the country, highest, lowest, and average salary in the country, in the city, or in the company. It can also be companies or countries' loans, salary gaps between different areas, and so on. Nowadays, it is also very common to create wall statistics, and that data is very popular among data journalists because it allows to see the same situation in the whole world and compare it between different countries. The examples would be world's population, birth and death rate in the world, how many babies on average one woman has, and so on. What are the steps in finding data? First of all, start by defining your topic. Try to be as specific as you can so you could narrow down your search. At the same time, aim to be flexible enough to tailor your needs to existing sources. The questions you should raise at this stage are: what kind of data do I need? Do I need to find information about a particular society, group of people, or an individual? Maybe political parties or nation states? Is there any time frame that the data needs to fit in? Then, think of what kind of source of information you need. Identify who or what, a person, a private company, or public authorities could provide you with the data that you need. Most of the data nowadays is kept online. Therefore, you will likely need to browse through websites. It is very important to differentiate between different sources of data and different websites because not all of the websites and data sources are reliable. To evaluate whether the website provides reliable data, first of all, find the website that provides data. Always check what the source of the website's information is. Have a look. Is it an official and well-known source? Then check if it's original. Whether you're working with internal or external data, make sure it is always coming from the primary source. If you come across an interesting data set on Wikipedia or in a magazine article, try to track it down the original data. Without reviewing the primary source yourself, you will never know if the methods were flawed. Always think critically and try to answer a question to yourself whether there is a chance of any bias of the information. Verify that the source you choose is unbiased as much as possible. Unbiased sources include data collected or produced by the governmental agencies, industry white papers, or even academic publications. Remember that surveys conducted by polling agencies or think tanks, while usable, will often have a political agenda and it will be biased. Avoid data that is anecdotal, user-generated, or based on a hearsay. Check if website belongs to an official organization, institution, or government, and if the information is updated regularly. The world changes quickly. Usually, data that was produced or collected 10 years, 5 years, or even a year ago is not valid anymore. Always use the most recent published version of data available. The best data sources are the ones that revise their data on an annual or even monthly basis. Some data sources are accessed very easily. Here are the examples of data sources that can be found by anyone, anytime. The Data Hub, a community-driven resource that makes it easy to find and share and even reuse openly available sources of data. Scraper Wiki, an online tool for extracting useful bits of data. United Nations Data Portal provides a high level of indicators for all countries. This data source is particularly liked and used by data journalists in countries where governments limit access to open data. Research Data, national and disciplinary aggregators of research data. This data is always reliable. While talking about government or national data, governments collect data to aid in policy decisions and is the largest producer of data overall in most of the countries. Government data is free and publicly available, but may require access through library resources or special requests. Yet, if you want to get the most reliable data, it is worth requesting an access for using the data for your stories. You can find government data on its official data portals, organization charts, websites, databases, and so on. As we already know how to find reliable websites, the next question is how to find a reliable database. While they may not always be easy to find, many databases on the web are indexed by search engines, whether the publisher intended this or not. Here are a few tips. You can search by part of an URL. Adding XLS will try to find an Excel files that have downloads in their web address. Another particular trick is not to search for content directly, but for places where data may be available. For example, adding to your search keywords such as dictionary listing may give you some listings generated by the web server with easy access to raw files. While adding database download, we'll look for intentionally created listings. When searching for data, make sure that you include both search terms relating to the content of the data you're trying to find, as well as some information on the format or source that you would expect to be in. Google and other search engines allow you to search by file type. For example, you can look only for spreadsheets, geodata, database extracts, and PDFs. These simple tips will make your data gathering much easier and faster. Once you find data, the next step is to extract it. The fastest way for data journalists to extract data is web scraping. But have you ever heard of this technique? If you have ever copied or pasted information from a website, you've performed the same function as any web scraper, only on a microscopic manual scale. Web scraping, also known as web data extraction, is the process of retrieving or scraping data from the website. Web scraping is one of the most useful and least understood methods for data journalists to gather data. It is the thing that helps you when in your online search you come across information that qualifies as data but does not have a download button. Unlike the manual techniques to extract data that usually are time and energy consuming, web scraping uses intelligent automation to retrieve hundreds, millions, or even billions of data points from the internet seemingly easily and quickly. Transformation doesn't even begin to describe the way data journalists use web scraping data to enhance their operations and save time. The media today can create outstanding value of web scraping. As probably not many of us have heard about this technique, we will now watch a video tutorial on web scraping.
So you want to know what web scraping is and how it's used? Okay, let's break it all down. Some websites can contain a very large amount of invaluable data. Stock prices, product details, sports stats, you name it. If you wanted to access this information, you'd either have to use whatever format the website uses or copy and paste the information manually into a new document. This can be pretty tedious when you want to extract a lot of information from a website. Here's where web scraping can help. So what is web scraping? Web scraping simply refers to the extraction of data from a website. This information is collected and then exported into a format that is more useful to the user. For example, you can use web scraping to export a list of product names and prices from Amazon onto an Excel spreadsheet. Although web scraping can be done manually, in most cases, software tools that run on your computer are preferred when scraping, as they can be less expensive and work at a faster rate. But in most cases, web scraping is not a simple task. Nowadays, websites come in many shapes and forms, and as a result, web scrapers can vary in functionality and features. So how do web scrapers work and tackle complex sites? First, a web scraper will be given one or more URLs to load before scraping. The scraper then loads the entire HTML code for the page in question. More advanced scrapers will render the entire website, including CSS and JavaScript elements. Then, the scraper will either extract all the data on the page or specific data selected by the user before the project is run. Ideally, the user will go through the process of selecting the specific data they want from the page. For example, you might want to scrape an Amazon product page for prices and models, but are not necessarily interested in product reviews. Lastly, the web scraper will output the data that has been collected into a format that is more useful to the user. Most web scrapers will output data to a CSV or Excel spreadsheet, while more advanced scrapers will support other formats such as JSON, which can then be used for an API. Web scrapers can also come in many different forms, with very different features on a case-by-case basis. For example, web scrapers can come as a browser extension or a more powerful desktop application that is downloaded to your computer. Web scrapers can also scrape sites locally from your computer using your computer resources and your internet connection, or work on the cloud without using your computer resources or your internet connection. Feeling adventurous? Just like how anyone could build a website, you can also build your own web scraper if you want to. After some coding, of course. By this point, you can probably think of several different ways in which web scrapers can be used. A few uses include scraping stock prices to make better investing decisions, scraping data from yellow pages to generate leads, scraping data from a store locator to create a list of business locations, scraping product data from sites like Amazon or eBay for competitor analysis, or scraping sports stats for betting or fantasy leagues. The list of things you can do with web scraping is almost endless. After all, it's all about what you can do with the data you've collected and how valuable you can make it.
So now you know what web scraping is and how beneficial it is for data journalists. While talking about data management tools, there is quite a lot of them. Data management systems are almost all very advanced and extensively used by open data journalists to help them filter and organize data. You can now see on the screen some of the most commonly used data management systems, and they're all not limited to these ones only. As nowadays there are various tools to gather and manage data efficiently, there are still some challenges that data journalists face while collecting data. This includes lack of knowledge on data and its gathering overall. There is a lack of education in this field for data journalists in some countries. Also, data journalists are not trained enough to use advanced tools that would help them to work more efficiently. Access to data is very limited in some countries, or data is available but not updated regularly. The solution to these challenges would be providing necessary training for data journalists. Finally, the last but not least tip that is useful for data journalists while managing data is to use Microsoft Excel sheets. While most of the data management systems are very powerful, they are also quite complicated for beginners. That is why it is very handy to use Microsoft Excel sheets for those who are just starting to be data journalists. We will now watch a quick tutorial on Microsoft Excel sheets.
Today we're going to show you how to create a form for collecting and organizing your data using Excel 2016. This is important to know stuff, especially when working with a lot of data. Rod here, and welcome to Burn to Learn. In this exercise, we're going to use 3 values: first name, last name, and email. First, we have to set up the table headers. Here's how. Type the words first name in cell A1, last name in cell B1, and email in cell C1. Now select cells A1 through C1. Then go to the menu bar and click on Insert and then Table. We could use a shortcut by pressing Ctrl T, but we're going to use the menu Insert option instead. Now check to make sure the data information is correct. Then select the option My Table Has Headers, and then click OK. Now go to the menu bar again and click on Data. We want to find the Form button, but it's not there on the menu. So we'll have to create and add a form button, and here's how you do that. Go to File and scroll down to the end and select Options. Now go down the General column on the left and select Customize Ribbon. Then in the Choose Commands from section on the left, hit the down arrow and select Commands Not in the Ribbon. Now scroll down the box on the left and select the option Form. Then click on New Group in the right column, and the word New Group automatically appears on the list of data. Now click the Rename button and type in a new name. We're going to rename it Data Form. We can also add an icon if we want. Now click the Add button in the middle to add the Form option to the data form. Then click OK, and the New Form button appears on the data menu. Pretty cool stuff, right? Now click on the Form button, and a box for giving instructions to Excel appears. Fill in the first name. We're going to use my name, Rodney. Then fill in the last name. My last name is Davis. Now fill in my email, which is admin@burntolearn.com. Then click the New button to save the data, and Excel automatically moves to the next cell. So let's make another entry from our database with John Smith with an email of john@gmail.com. You can put in as many entries from your database as you want. If you want to edit the form, simply scroll to where you want to make the edit and type it in. If you want to delete something, just click the Delete button, then click OK, and it's deleted.
As you can see, data gathering is generally a complex process. Yet, there are many tools that can make it easier for data journalists to overcome obstacles on the way and less time consuming. Thank you for your attention.